project was for construction of American kestrel, eastern bluebird, and bat boxes for the Langdale School Forest. I am Peyton Bennett.
I'm Randy Chancey.
I'm Sheppard.
This project was for grant rents on ABAC School Forest in Tift County, Georgia.
Overview of the project include objectives, goals, materials, box construction, finished products, and delivery.
Our objectives were to construct 3 American kestrel boxes, 10 eastern bluebird boxes, and 5 bat boxes. We also needed to provide recommendations to Mr. Grant for a protective oil finish for the box's exterior that would not harm or kill the inhabitants inside. In addition to this, we determined the best time of year and the most suitable locations to place the boxes around the school forest. Because we obtained more than 30 hours of input, Mr. Rentz decided that he and his student workers would apply the protective oil to the boxes and hang them in locations based on our recommendations.
The main goals for this project were to construct a durable and weather-resistant box that could have oil put on it regularly to help with the weatherproofing. The boxes also needed to be predator resistant. One of the most important things was to make sure the boxes were completed before February 11th so they can be put up before nesting season. We chose to go with heartwood southern yellow pine, mainly because of the decay resistance. It was an added benefit by our team member Dylan had a lot of heartwood at his house that was already cut to boards. For the project, we used 8 1-inch by 12-inch by 8 feet boards, 6 1-inch by 6-inch by 12 feet boards, and 2 1-inch by 6-inch by 8 feet boards. The other materials, such as the hardware cloth, the decking screws, were also donated by Mr. Sheppard. The only part that we did not buy or did not get donated to us was the raw linseed oil. To get the prices for this material, we ended up going to Lowe's and pricing out similar items. The total price that we had for everything was be $434.30 if you bought everything from Lowe's or in Amazon for the oil.
We based our kestrel and bluebird box designs based off of Maryland's DNR, Department of Natural Resources, kestrel box design. The only differences that we made was instead of using the roof to access the box in order to clean it out and to check to see what species are utilizing it, we decided to go with a design using the front to open the door to clean out the boxes and such.
American kestrel and eastern bluebird boxes followed the same design principle. A nail was added as a retention pin to hold the box door in place for extra security. The boxes were constructed with yellow heart pine. The wood inside remained unfinished for young birds to have a better grip when leaving the nest. The outside of the box were planed for a better oil adhesion, and the exterior decking screws were used to provide better durability to increase the life of the boxes. Kestrel boxes had a 3-inch entry hole, while bluebird boxes had an 1.5-inch hole or gap. The kestrel boxes were upscaled versions of the bluebird boxes. We used the same material as the bluebird boxes for the bat boxes. The wood also remained unfinished in the inside and was planed on the outside. Hardware cloth was added for the bats to have something to grip onto when roosting. A predator guard was added to the bottom of the box to protect the bats from predation, with an inch gap allowing access to the bats. There is a 1/4-inch gap in the middle of the front facing the side of the bat box to allow adequate ventilation.
Using Dylan's laser engraver, we added numbers and the ABAC school logo to the fronts of the boxes. We used the ABAC Wildlife Society logo to go with the wildlife theme of the project. By adding numbers to the boxes, it will allow for future monitoring of the nests and will allow for easier identification if used in conjunction with GPS coordinates.
Here's some pictures of the completed products. The Kestrel boxes, like Dylan said, were upscaled versions of the Bluebird boxes. The Kestrel boxes, they need to be hung 10 to 20 feet high. And then the pictured box was hung on a pole overlooking one of the fields at the school forest. Two variants of the Bluebird boxes were created, one with a circular hole and one with a slot or a gap. The circular hole, it was an older design, and the gap is supposed to be an improved design upon the circular hole. The gap is to help bluebirds defend their nest against attacking birds such as the European starling and sparrows. Since there's a bigger gap, there's more than one spot of entry and more than one spot of exit. So it's easier to defend or get out if they need to. And it was recommended by other bird box builders. The Bluebird boxes could be hung practically anywhere on the stem of a tree higher than 5 feet. One other consideration for the Bluebird boxes was that they needed to be in a fairly open area, so we couldn't put it in when Mr. Rentz hung it up or hang these. They couldn't put it in a super high basal area or overgrown parts of the school forest. And then lastly, on the far right, the back boxes. This one is real close to the classroom at the school forest. It's actually on that post oak. And this one is for educational purposes. We're hoping that the bats don't move from this box to the school forest classroom.
A concern that Mr. Rentz had was regarding the retention pins in the door for the Bluebird and the Kestrel boxes. The pins were added for securing the doors and to protect the box inhabitants from predation. Some of these pins actually fell out during oil application. However, when the boxes are hung upright on trees or posts, these pins will not fall out. We drilled the holes for the pins to sit in at a steep angle to keep the pins from falling out and getting lost.
These slots, the pins were added just for extra security. The doors themselves are actually pretty rugged, and they have to be, there's a good bit of force has to be applied to them for them to open up.
Delivery came 5 days early. On February 6th, we met Mr. Rentz that morning to drop the boxes off. That morning, the middle picture shows all the boxes loaded up in the back of the truck, and the right is a photo of the inside of the box we made as a prototype and pattern, which already has nest and eggs laid in it.
Overall, we believe that this project was pretty successful. We were able to deliver all the boxes earlier than the planned time frame. Our stakeholder was also very impressed with our work, with the timeliness, with the quality of the boxes and the materials that we were able to get. It was also an added benefit that the materials that build the boxes were donated versus the school having to pay for them. Some possible improvements for these boxes could be, like Brenda said earlier, was for GPS coordinates to be tied to the individual boxes. Since we had the individual numbers for the Bluebird, Kestrel, and back boxes, GPS coordinates could be tied to them in order for research purposes, for maybe ornithology classes to be able to go check on the boxes. And then we also believe that to be less intrusive when studying the birds, maybe a camera could be added to the boxes. If you add the camera to the box and have an external memory device or storage device, students or workers could go and get the SD cards, flash drives, and put them in a computer. Even though there's no Wi-Fi out in the forest, they could still see what the birds are doing on their day-to-day activity, or if, like on the Bluebird boxes, to see if that slot or gap is actually being beneficial in defense against European starlings or swallows.
We want to acknowledge and thank both Mr. Rentz and Dylan for their inputs and efforts on this project. Mr. Rentz allowed us a fair bit of reign on this project. Outside of his requests for the types of boxes and how many he wanted, as well as his request for oil coat recommendations, he allowed us to design, cut, and construct the boxes at our own discretion and chosen location.
And also, thank you to Dylan and your family. With their contribution, it was much easier for us to get the materials. We already knew where the materials were, and we knew that they were heart pine too, which was a big deciding factor on the materials that we got. That heart pine, like I said earlier, had the inherent decay resistance. And thanks to Dylan's workshop, we were able to cut the boards, plane the boards in a timely manner, and do it safely. We didn't have to go reach out of our way to find a workshop to use. Even though the ABAC workshop is very nice, Dylan's workshop, it was just something on another level. The machine planner really helped speed up the process. And then throughout the workshop, we probably wouldn't have made it on that time or earlier than our agreed time.
And it was easier to use Dylan's workshop as we could access it any time that we needed to or had the opportunity to. So whereas it's difficult to access the school forest on the weekends, we were able to get this done in a handful of weekends thanks to being able to use this shop.
Yeah, not to mention the laser engraver. One of the big ideas that we wanted to is to be able to mark all of the boxes individually. So having that laser engraver was also a massive help. And not to mention how everything was all in one spot at Dylan's family shop. Right outside the shop is where the heartwood is, and then right close to that shop is where the engraver is. So when we cut the wood, planed it, we just sent it all to their shop, and then got it engraved. And thanks to that, we were able to build everything up to code, however you wanted it, and to ensure that we have the quality that was necessary for this project, because we wanted to do the school forest proud, and we wanted these boxes to actually last the lifetime of the birds and lifetime of students to be able to see what their handiwork can do.
And because of this access, we were not only be able to provide what our stakeholder, Mr. Rentz, wanted out of this project, but to provide great quality boxes for this project. So thank you to both of them for all of their input and allowing us to do what we did. So I think that concludes our presentation. We hope you enjoyed it and learned something from it. Have a good night.